Okay, we are been talking in class about two-dimensional shapes, their attributes, the things that make them that shape, and the hierarchy, so how we're classifying that. So today, you're going to be making a hierarchy mobile. A mobile is something that you hang, and usually it's something that's hung above a baby's crib. You can see a picture of one right here on your screen. So before we start building a hierarchy, what is a hierarchy? A hierarchy is the way we classify things by their attributes. We know what to call shapes by their attributes. Attributes are the things that make that shape that shape. The hierarchy organizes the shapes by their classification. So what is a hierarchy? Let's take a step back for a minute. In class, before we started discussing hierarchies, we talked about some different shapes. What shapes have we discussed? Here are the shapes we've been talking about in class. We discussed quadrilaterals, parallelograms, trapezoids, rhombus, squares, and rectangles. Okay, so here's the attributes. This shape, the quadrilateral, has 4 sides and 4 vertices. So any shape that's a polygon, which is a closed figure with straight sides that has 4 sides and 4 vertices, can be called a quadrilateral. So what about this next shape? What about the parallelogram? What attributes does a parallelogram have? A parallelogram has 4 sides and 4 vertices, so it can be called a quadrilateral, and it has 2 pair of parallel lines. That's what makes it a parallelogram. So what about a trapezoid? What attributes does a trapezoid have? A trapezoid has 4 sides, 4 vertices, and 1 pair of parallel lines. That is what makes it different from a parallelogram. So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral, but it's not a parallelogram. These two shapes do not connect. Okay, so now let's look at the rhombus. What do we know about the rhombus? What attributes does a rhombus have? Well, a rhombus has 4 sides, 4 vertices, which makes it a quadrilateral, 2 pair of parallel lines, which makes it a parallelogram. All sides are congruent. What is congruent? Congruent means the same. We've talked about this in class. The same. That means all 4 sides are the same. And then opposite angles are congruent. That means opposite angles are the same. So now let's look at the square. What attributes does a square have? It has 4 sides, 4 vertices, which means it's a quadrilateral. It has 2 pair of parallel lines, which makes it a parallelogram. All sides are congruent, and 4 right angles. That means all 4 angles are 90 degrees. Let's look at our last shape on this page. What is it? It's a rectangle. What attributes does a rectangle have? What makes a rectangle a rectangle? A rectangle has 4 sides, 4 vertices, so we know it's a quadrilateral. It has 2 pair of parallel lines, so we know it's a parallelogram. Opposite sides are congruent. And 4 right angles, which means all 4 angles are 90 degrees. So let's go back to talking about the hierarchy. The place at the very top is going to be the broadest description because it's going to classify everything that falls below it In other words, any shape with all of these attributes can be called that. So looking at the first block at the top here, what should go there? Polygon. So what's a polygon? A polygon is any closed shape with straight sides. So what will come next in this hierarchy we've been discussing? Think back to our shapes and their attributes. What should go in this next box? Quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is a polygon, which is any closed shape with straight sides that has 4 sides and 4 vertices. So let's look over here at this next one. What should go here? What is a polygon with 4 sides and 4 vertices that has additional specific attributes? It's a parallelogram. So a parallelogram has all the attributes of a polygon and a quadrilateral, but then we have to say, but it also has 2 pair of parallel lines. We're getting more specific each time we go down one of these arrows. So what's going to go here? What is a polygon with 4 sides, 4 vertices, 2 pair of parallel lines that also has additional specific attributes? What should go right here? A rectangle. A rectangle is a closed shape with straight sides that has 4 sides, 4 vertices, 2 pair of parallel lines, but then it also has opposite sides that are congruent and 4 right angles. When I'm saying opposite sides are congruent, I mean this side is the same as this side, and this side is the same as this side. Okay, so let's look back at our hierarchy again. What's going to go next? This shape will have the attributes of a polygon and a quadrilateral and a parallelogram, but then look at these arrows here. These arrows show us that this shape will not have the same attributes as a rectangle. It will have the attributes of a polygon, a quadrilateral, and a parallelogram, but something about it is different from a rectangle. So what's going to go here? It's a rhombus. A rhombus is a closed shape with straight sides, 4 vertices, 2 pair of parallel lines, but then it also has 4 congruent sides, 4 sides that are all the same length. It also has opposite angles that are congruent. When I say that opposite angles are congruent, I mean that this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to this angle. Okay, so what's going to go in this next box? Look at these arrows here. Our arrows before showed us that those had no attributes the same other than the things that fell above it. They didn't connect other than the parallelogram above them. So this shape will have the attributes of a polygon, a quadrilateral, and a parallelogram. But what do you think these arrows mean? There's an arrow from a rectangle and an arrow from the rhombus. But we know that a rectangle and rhombus they don't connect. They're not the same. So what do you think this means? It means that the shape will have all the attributes of a polygon, a quadrilateral, a parallelogram, and a rectangle, and a rhombus. So what is this shape? It's a square. A square has is a closed shape with straight sides, four vertices, two pair of parallel lines. It has four right angles like a rectangle, and it has four congruent sides like a rhombus. Tell me again what congruent means. Right. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Miss Harris, you told me that a shape has to have all of the same attributes to fall under the shape above it. Guess what? It does. A rectangle's other attribute is that opposite sides are congruent. Look, this side is congruent to this side. Those are opposite sides. This side is congruent to this side. Yes, all sides are congruent. So even though opposite sides are congruent, so are all of the sides. They can all be the same and opposite sides still be congruent. So a rhombus's additional attribute is that opposite angles are congruent. It's the same thing. All four angles are 90 degrees, which means this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to this angle. So a square is a rectangle, and a square is a rhombus. But a rhombus can never be a square because it does not have four 90-degree angles. And a rectangle can never be a square. Why? Why are rectangles and rhombuses not squares? Okay, let's look at this box. We can see whatever it is going to have the same attributes as a polygon, which is a closed shape with straight sides, and the same attributes as a quadrilateral, which is a shape with four sides and four vertices. But look, why is there no arrow that connects this box to the rest of the boxes? So think about the shapes we've learned about. Think about their attributes. What do you think? What shape goes here? It's a trapezoid. So why doesn't a trapezoid connect to parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, or square? It's because a trapezoid only has one pair of parallel lines. A parallelogram must have two pair of parallel lines. That means a trapezoid has all the attributes of a polygon and quadrilateral, but not of a parallelogram. Now, I want you to get this paper with the shapes from the yellow pocket on the whiteboard. You will use this paper to create your mobile. There is yarn for you to use for your arrows. You will connect your shapes the way you're supposed to in a hierarchy. In order to, you may color your shapes, but you need to make sure that you use colors that you will still be able to write on. So you need to use the yarn to connect your shapes after you have used what we've learned from the lesson to connect these shapes. So what I want you to do is each shape should have the name on one side and the attributes on the other. Look at my example. I cut out the quadrilateral, I labeled it quadrilateral, and on the back, I wrote the attributes of a quadrilateral, which is four sides and four vertices. So here's your final question before you build. Polygon is not classified correctly on the diagram below. Which figure should polygon be changed to in order for the diagram to be correct? A, octagon, B, hexagon, C, quadrilateral, or D, trapezoid? Here's your final instructions. Refer to your choice board for all of the instructions, then turn your hierarchy mobile into Miss Harris to be graded. Make sure your Edpuzzle has been submitted for a grade.